Good morning, girls. I hope you're doing well. Today, our lesson is gonna be reading. First of all, in exercise number 1, we're gonna read these 4 headlines. Headlines, which means عناوين رئيسية. We're gonna read the headline, then we're gonna match them with the suitable paragraphs from A, B, C, D. Let's start with the headline. Number 1, holiday message in 50 years late. Holiday, it is a vacation, عطلة. Number 2, from mobile messaging to published book. Published, which means منشور. Communication becomes art. Here, communication, it is a noun, which means تواصل. Number 3, airmail, bring best friends together. Number 4, humans not alone in using sign language. Sign, it is a hint, mark, إشارة، علامة. Sign language اللي هي لغة الإشارة. Now, let's start with the paragraphs. We're gonna read them, then match them with the suitable headline from exercise number 1 above. Let's start with the first paragraph. A scientific research project has found that wild chimpanzees use at least 66 gestures to communicate with each other. Wild, بري. Gestures, it is signals, marks, hints, اللي هي إشارات. So they use gestures to communicate with each other. Why do chimpanzees use gestures to communicate with each other? Here it is verb. After researchers had spent time with the animals in Borneo, it is the name of a place. It is an island. They studied 120 hours of video they had recorded. They were looking for signs that the animals were using signals to communicate with each other. So the researchers spent a lot of time with animals. They studied their signs, they studied their gestures to see if they were using signal to communicate with each other. Communicate, here it is a verb, which means يتواصل. They looked to see if the chimps were looking at each other in order to be sure that the gesture had a purpose. That is, to communicate something. If the animal didn't respond to the gesture was made over and over again until there was a response. So, the researchers wanted to know if the chimps were using the gesture for a purpose which means هدف, that is to communicate something. They have noticed that if the animal didn't respond to the gesture, it was made over and over until there was a response. Response is استجابة. So the chimp were doing the gesture again and again until it got a response from the other chimp. Which means that they are using signals to say something. Animals using signals to say something or to communicate something. Now, the results نتائج suggest that there is a common system, نظام شائع of communication across these species. Species, which means kind. So, the main idea in paragraph A says that is talking about using sign language between animals. Now, let's back to exercise number 1 to see which headline is more suitable for paragraph A. It is a human not alone in using sign language. So paragraph A is matching with headline number 4. So let's move to paragraph B. I'm gonna read it firstly, then give you the main idea. A postcard sent from Florida has finally reached its destination. Destination, which means its point, مكانها المقصود. In England, it had been posted in 1957, so we're CE. So we're talking about 50 years ago. This postcard had been addressed to someone working at an education center. The building had once been a school, so this education center, المركز التعليمي, it was been a school. Staff at the education center, staff اللي طاقم العمل, have been trying to find the addressee. Addressee which means the receiver, المتلقي للرسالة. The card which appears to have been written by a grandparent, so this card was written by a grandparent, describes a trip to Florida. Trip, رحلة. USA. He wrote that it had rained a bit that day, but it was still hot. A spokesperson for the post office, spokesperson, which means متحدث الرسمي, said that the postcard had probably been put back in a post box. Probably, which means maybe, it may be been put back in a post box recently. He said that the mail was never in the sorting office في مكتب الفرز for that length of time. So the main idea of this paragraph, it is talking about a message that delivered after 50 years. According to the main idea, let's back to exercise number 1. The suitable headline for this paragraph is holiday message is 50 years late. Message وصل بعد 50 عام. Now, let's move to paragraph 3. In 2001 CE, a girl called Laura Buxton from Staffordshire, UK, it is the name of a place in UK, wrote a message with her name and address on a helium-filled balloon. She then sent it into the air, where it disappeared, which means اختفى. A few weeks later, the balloon landed nearly 200 kilometers away in southern England. The man who found it took it to his neighbors, the Buxtons, who had a daughter called Laura. They were surprised to learn that it was from another girl with the same name. So the balloon sent from a girl whose name is Laura Buxton, it landed to a girl whose name is Laura Buxton. The two girls got in touch with each other, decided to meet, and become best friends. So the main idea in this paragraph, is that a girl whose name is Laura Buxton sent a balloon in the air, and this balloon arrived to another girl with the same name, and these two girls become best friends. Okay, let's back to exercise number 1 and see which headline is more suitable with paragraph C. As we can see, paragraph C is matched with headline number 3, which is Airmail brings best friends together. Now finally, let's move to paragraph D. An artist has kept all her text messages, and after 12 years, she had collected about 100,000 messages. She kept the first few messages because she enjoyed reading them. So why did she keep the first few messages? Because she enjoyed reading them over again. It was like a personal diary. Diary, which means مذكرات يومية. It is also a record of history covering world events. So her messages were personal diary, record of a history, and covering words events. Every time a text message arrived, she saved the contents المحتوى. She wrote them in notebooks. When her phone ran out of space to store them, لما بنفد مساحة التخزين على تليفونها, she eventually filled more than, eventually at the end or finally يعني بالنهاية, filled more than 60 notebooks. Then she started copying them onto her computer. The woman took her collection to a publisher اللي هي ناشر, and the book has now been published and translated into several languages. Translated, تم ترجمته. So this paragraph is talking about an artist that collected her phone messages and printed them on a computer, then published them in a book. So according to the main idea, let's see the suitable headline. It is number 2. From mobile messaging to published book, communication becomes art. After finishing these 4 paragraphs, girls, let's move to your homework. It is exercise number. Okay, girls. After we have finished reading the whole paragraphs, you have a homework here in exercise number 3. You're gonna read the paragraphs again, then you're gonna underline all of the words that are forms of communication. Forms of communication, which means أشكال للاتصال. They have answered the first word, which is gesture. You're gonna read the whole text, the whole paragraph, and find the words that are forms of communication. Answer this exercise, girls, answer this homework and send it to me by